Hello, warriors. Welcome back to another episode of the Invisible Diaries. We're your hosts. I'm Misty.
And I'm Amber, and today we are discussing flares and tips and tricks on how to manage them.
As always, a quick disclaimer, any information discussed in this podcast is strictly our opinion and for informational purposes only. It is not meant as medical advice and should not be taken that way. Always consult your doctor or medical team.
We know battling chronic illness can be hard, and if you find yourself or someone you love in crisis and need someone to talk to, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK, which provides free and confidential support in the U.S. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, that number is 1-800-273-TALK. Now let's get started.
Yay!
Yay!
This is episode 15. Can you believe it?
15. We're getting there.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't know about you, Misty, but today is a topic near and dear to my heart, as I'm sure it is you and a lot of spoonies, because
Yes.
flares are our nemesis. For those of you tuning in that don't know what a flare is, it's technically defined as an exacerbation of a chronic disease. For a disease to be chronic, it generally means that it can't be prevented by vaccines and or cured by medication, and they don't just disappear. So they tend to last 3 months or more, and most, if not all, autoimmune diseases are considered chronic illness. So basically, that means you're either in a flare or in remission. There is no kind of middle ground once you're in that chronic disease pool. So your symptoms are either going to increase or decrease. Would you say that's pretty accurate for you?
Oh, absolutely. And I actually was at the Dysautonomia Education Day recently in Clearwater, and Dr. Raj, who is amazing, was speaking. And it was great because my husband was there, so it was nice for him to kind of learn. And one of the things that he had said, Dr. Raj, was, he was like, how many of you guys have had the flu? And people raised their hands, and a lot of like loved ones and significant others, family members were there. And so they're like, when you get the flu, it's terrible. You feel horrible. He's like, but at the end of the day, that's going to go away after a couple days or a week, and he's like, for people with chronic illness, it's like they have the flu, but it never goes away. And I was just like, oh my God, it's so brilliant, because it's so true. You're tired, you're fatigued. I mean, I even get like low grade fevers, I get body aches. And I just thought that was such a great way to explain it, to try to understand kind of what it's like, when you're in a flare, or what we go through.
Right. Because, with autoimmune disease, basically your immune system attacks itself. So it's attacking healthy cells. And so when it does that by mistake, inflammation occurs. And inflammation, honestly, is the source for a lot of these diseases, because it varies person to person. But I wrote down for my notes, Misty, I was like, it starts out with flu-like symptoms. The best way to describe it, low-grade fever, muscle and body aches, like unexplained fatigue. You have like weird swelling and redness and heat coming and radiating from your body that you're like, did I hurt myself in the middle of the night? I don't know. So it's like, for a lot of people, it can be all of those things, or it can be a couple of those things. So, I think that it's important to remember, with inflammation, just like if you, roll your ankle or break your arm, it's intense. And then it kind of, as you begin to heal, and that's kind of how flare versus remission, the flare can last, a few hours for some people. It can last a few days, weeks, months. Some people feel like they're in like the never-ending flare. But with, the key to managing those flares is really managing the inflammation that accompanies it.
Yeah. And for me, one of the things I think too that's super important for managing a flare is your mental health.
Absolutely.
Because I know there's been times where I've had flares so bad that I literally, I hate to say this or admit this, but I like to be real, that I've thought like, just take me, like I'm done. And I never want to think that way. And of course I never want that to be, really what happens. But it's hard. So trying to manage your mental health is pretty crucial when you have flares that can be pretty bad. You
Absolutely.
definitely want to have like a game plan on what to do if you get to that point, or just trying to keep your mental health in control and well managed.
And for some people, like, guys, there is no shame in the pharmaceutical game. Misty and I are huge advocates of reaching out and consulting your medical team. And if, getting, pharmaceutical help is part of your regime for battling, do it. If scheduling extra counseling appointments is part of it, do it. It's whatever it is that you need to kind of, get yourself on track. Like Misty says, I call it like my it's kind of like a hurricane evacuation plan for me. Like when I have a flare, I have a list of things that's like, because my brain stops working. So I can go down my list and I can say like, okay, do I have someone that, I can call to get my son to school? Do I have someone that can pick him up? Who's doing dinner? Like all of the things that basically when my functions go down to just like the basic survival ones, it's having that list so that I know I don't have to really think about it.
Yeah, I agree. That's really a good point too, is having some type of support system or a plan, or like kind of like an emergency plan. So for me, I'm really fortunate that my mother lives nearby and that she's available. And
Right.
when I have to call to help with, getting the kids or, little things like that, she's usually available. So that's really nice. And my husband too, sometimes when he gets off work, I'll have him go to the store or, run an errand for me. Yeah. So not being afraid to speak up and ask for help is super important, because like that, you really have to do that. And I know that it's so hard when you don't have a support system and you don't have people who maybe they don't believe you. I know in the past when I wasn't married to an awesome man,
Right.
that I didn't have a support system and I was just told I was a lazy mom, and it wasn't an option. And so I think at that point, I definitely didn't have like my mental health under control. So if you don't have a support system, then I mean, maybe we should think about some options and ideas to, get through the flare for people who don't have a support system.
Yeah, it made me think about, there's a Facebook commercial that's circulating, I guess, for the holidays, and it was from like a military mom that was deployed. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but she was like, basically she had typed in the Facebook group, bummed I'm deployed for Christmas. And so the Facebook moms were like, we're on it, the military moms. And they like went and they, did this whole thing for kids. And I was thinking to myself last night, I was like, why couldn't, we really do something like that? I mean, I know our listener base is basically everywhere, but the beautiful, benefits of the internet. But I mean, really, reaching out to your local community, and if you don't have one, start one. I mean, anybody can start a Facebook group, and, that way there's a safe place to go that, hey, if you, are making, for me, on my good health days, I make bulk freezer meals, because otherwise on the days I don't feel good, my child's eating PBJ. so,
Or pizza.
or pizza, and for him, he's got, autoimmune diseases as well. So it's like, you don't want to end up being a stumbling block for him with diet. And that's actually one of the things that I wrote, because tracking, triggers and learning your triggers are really a huge part of the battle, at least for me, really sitting down and figuring out, was it something that I ate? Did I get enough sleep? Have I had enough water? What medications did I take? What supplements? I mean, did I have dairy? Did I have gluten? Like because those things, everyone's triggers are completely individual. So really sitting down and tracking those things, I could start to see a correlation. I don't know about for you, like.
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to kind of figure out my triggers, and I still kind of am figuring out what my triggers are. But slowly over time, I'll notice like something I eat or do. And it's funny because like I have my Fitbit watch and I love it and it keeps track of my steps and stuff. But at the same time, I know when I hit like a certain step count, I'm going to be bad tomorrow.
Right.
So I know like the opposite people are like, get as many as you can. And sometimes for me, I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be
Yeah,
in bed
no.
tomorrow.
Well, and even
Um,
yeah, for me too, like when I sat, because I mean, a lot of our listeners that have been listening to us for a while know, I mean, I bullet journal. And so part of that is tracking my month at a glance. And so I track like my mood, I track, you know, my hours of sleep, I track my steps. Like I am such a tracker because I could really start to see like, oh man, like I'm having a flare that's lasting 4 or 5 days, like that's so intense. And then I'm like, oh, I had dairy 3 days in a row. Like, which
yeah.
before when my brain wasn't quite working, because like I said, survival, you know, all the basic survival functions are the only thing that worked for me, that I was able to go, okay, so if I eliminate this, you know, do my symptoms get better? And that made a huge difference. Um, even I mean, because I've got interstitial cystitis, so like food and beverages really play a game, you know, play a part in my flares. And so not really realizing, oh, I had coffee and tea in the same day, or oh, I had a Red Bull. Like, no wonder it feels like I'm, you know, on fire.
Oh yeah.
So it's like,
And I kind of keep track, like in my, that's what I love about the Fitbit. I don't know if you can
yeah,
even see,
and it's a little
but like even like for yesterday, I
right.
was, there
Oh
we
yeah.
go.
Oh yeah.
8 hours, and I was 8 hours and 1 minute in fat burn
Love
yesterday.
it.
So I'm tired
I
today.
love dysautonomia.
So then you can kind of see like it shows if you have like for female health to track like your cycle and stuff. It has your sleep. So for me, like I'm just really bad about bullet journaling. I wish I could be as awesome
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you. So like the Fitbit is kind of like an easy way too, because you can also track food and if you hydrated today. But I'm bad about that sometimes as well.
Well, I even know a friend of mine, like she just wanted to kind of track for a week. She was having a really tough time. And so she just took a picture of like, if it went in her mouth, like she took a picture of it because, and then she could just go back and vision. Cause she's like, I don't want to carry a book around with me. And, you know, sometimes I don't have my
Yeah.
phone. So, I mean, it's completely unique to however tracking, you know, works for you. It just, I know tracking has made a difference because I can really see, because I start to feel better and then I'm like, oh, I can have it again, no problem, you know. And so sometimes I think you forget. It's just like after, you know, it's like labor, like you just forget
Yeah.
how painful it is until
Oh yeah. No, I do that all the time.
yeah.
Um
So
yeah. So
well, and
I
plus, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you know, what works for one person may be a trigger for another person, you know. So
True.
someone, I think sometimes, you know, people mean well and everything else, but you know, again, like for me, when my IC is really fired up, the last thing, you know, walking and exercising is like a no. So you know, and some people, you know, kale may be an inflammation trigger for them. So the last thing you want to do is a green smoothie if kale's an inflammation trigger for you.
Yeah.
So it's really getting to know your body and your triggers because those are very specific.
And I know we were talking about support groups earlier. So I love our community on Instagram, and I'm so thankful for all of our followers and stuff. But
Absolutely.
we don't have very many on Facebook. So we're actually going to be doing a giveaway soon. We're still figuring out what we're giving away and when and all that good stuff. But we do have a Facebook page. So if you go to the Invisible Diaries, you'll find our page if you could like that. And then also, because we want to start doing live shows there as well. And then also, we did create the Invisible Diaries, a private group. So which would be nice too, because Instagram's great, but like it's kind of limited. So like with the groups, it's nice because people can, you know, we can have like our more discussions there in the community. I mean, just like what we were saying, like for people who don't have a support system, people can be like, oh, hey, I'm from Florida. You know, does anyone want to meet up or whatever?
Yeah,
Or can someone bring me water? I don't know. I'm just insert. So I would love, love, love to really build that because I don't think a lot of people know about it right now. And it's what's great about it is that because we're all in, I'm sure all of us or most of us are in our little private like group. Like I'm in a group for EDS and
right.
for dysautonomia and like all those individual things. I'm in one for my heart group and my pacemaker group, and it really adds up. And it can be nice for those specific things. but this is great because it's like a community just for like for everyone in general. And so I just think it would be really great if we get more people in there. And I think it's going to be a really awesome thing once we kind of build it a little bit more. So please make sure you go to Facebook, like our page, join our group, and let's get our group to be this like beautiful, amazing community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you guys know as well, as Misty and I do, when you find someone and a group of people that you're like, hey, you know what? Like this feels so isolating and it feels so like it's just happening to you. So when someone else goes, oh yeah, that happens to me too. Or, oh yeah, I felt like that. It's just nice to know that you're not by yourself. And I mean, when you're in the
Absolutely.
middle of a flare, it's dark for a lot of people. And it's like Misty, started out saying, protecting your mental health is the most important thing that you can do, because when your body is in that much pain, it is really hard to get your headspace in the right place. And so,
Yeah.
leaning, if you don't have a good support system, leaning on fellow, advocates and fellow spoonies who do know what you're going through, even if it's just hey, you're not alone. Like, we got you, what do you need during this? You need to talk. Do you need,
Yeah, and finding out ways to kind of cope is important too. It kind of goes along with mental health and everything else, but finding ways to get through it is really important. So, like for example, for the last like week or so, I've had really bad. I hate saying it. I always feel like I say it wrong. Tinnitus. I
tonight.
like to say it tinnitus, but I think it's pronounced tinnitus, which I hate saying it. I like to call it tinnitus.
I've had
Anyway,
medical doctors call it both, so I don't even think.
yeah. Anyway, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like it's in a nutshell like ringing in your ear. So I've had it for like 10 years, 24/7, and sometimes it's really bad and it gets worse. Sometimes it gets to the point where I feel like it's ringing so loud, like my head's vibrating. And so like for me, in order to cope with that, like when it gets so bad, that's why I always like I'll be up late at night. You'll see me at like 2 in the morning, because I always like I'll have the TV on, and I just put on funny movies. Like I decided, as much as I love like thrillers, and I just can't do like those stressful movies because it just gives me anxiety, and I'm trying to calm down. So like I'll watch like Step Brothers probably like once a week, and like Bridesmaids and like those kind of movies, really funny movies. And because I've seen them a million times, so it's not like I'm like making myself stay awake to watch it because I've seen it for like the thousandth time. So I just kind of have it on quietly in the background, and I have the captions on, and then I eventually fall asleep. But finding little tricks like that, because that kind of like silences out or kind of balances out like the tones and the ringing, and I'm able to kind of relax more. So that's an example of just finding a way to deal with and get through and cope with an issue that you have to deal with during a flare. Do you have any examples of what you do?
Oh goodness. I mean, for me, like, my interstitial cystitis, which I don't know, for our newer listeners, basically my bladder walls bleed. So it feels kind of like you have a really bad urinary tract infection all the time.
But
So
it spasms and stuff too. Like it's super
yeah,
painful.
yeah, I get spasms. It almost feels like I've equated it before, like I'm about to give labor to like my bladder, like, but also happy. Like it's the most bizarre feeling because there's a lot of pressure in like the pelvic floor. And so, I have some different cushions that kind of take some of that, almost like the sits cushions that like the donuts, that kind of take some pressure off the pelvic floor. I have certain pelvic floor exercises that I do during that time that are really gentle. I change like my bathing routine a little bit. Like there's just a lot of, I change what I'm, my diet a little bit, all of the things that I can do to down regulate, very similar. So it's like, I change even like the type of pants, like, because I can't wear anything that's like constricting if I wear my jeans too tight, or so all of that changes too. So that's part of that plan where it's like I go to that drawer and I have certain undergarments that just aren't compression like. So yeah, I think knowing what to do to combat your triggers is really, really important, because again, it's such an individualized thing, because like we said, what works for one person, even with the same disease, may not work for you. So, playing around with it too, figuring out what works.
And that's what's great about having like the community too, is, a lot of these things you learn from other people too. Like, hey guys, like, what do you do to get through this? And people have some great ideas because they've been dealing with it for a long time.
Right.
And another thing that I do is I have like this big cute box, those, little foldable ones. And in it I have tape for my joints, and I have like different braces and wraps. I have like my little heating pad.
Right.
My blood pressure cuff goes in there, and like a thermometer. It's basically just like my flare box. I guess I'll call it. I'll name it that right now. But it's just like, it has all my things in there that I'll need. There's compression socks. I mean, you name it, like over time, and I put it all there because it's readily available. I know where it is. It's all there. Because when you get a lot of these things and you just put something here and something there, then you're kind of like, when it happens and you're having like a bad day, then you're kind of like, well, you're looking for it, and that gets frustrating, and sometimes you just don't have the energy for that.
It makes it easy too if you are, a lot of us end up in bed with these flares if they get really bad. So, if you have, whether it's your kid or your spouse or your roommate or whatever, you can just say, hey, can you grab that
Bring me the box
with flowers? Yeah. And it's got
Yeah.
your go-to stuff, which is a great idea. That's a really great idea.
Yeah. It's very helpful.
Yeah. No. And I mean, again, having part of that prep list for you, you can have emergency contacts, you can have your favorite takeout restaurants. I mean, all of the things that you can kind of eliminate the burden of your brain having to work overtime and your body working overtime, those doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you not capable. It doesn't mean that you're not a good mom or dad or grandparent or aunt, uncle, child. It means that you are doing the things that you can do to manage your illness to the best of your ability. And that's all you can do with these.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, just really trying to get through a flare. Another recommendation too is, when we are not feeling well, we tend to want to seek comfort food, and sometimes that comfort food might not be the healthiest or the best. And I know a lot of people hate to hear that, and I was one of them. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, if you're eating a meal that is all processed and hardly any nutritional value, it's not going to help. Because a lot of times too, I know for me personally, when I'm sick, I'm usually like low on something. So I know that I'll be like low on my electrolytes, like potassium. I know I tend to be low on zinc, which a lot of doctors don't even test you for that.
Right.
I know now that the hours have changed and it's getting dark sooner, that like all of us are going to be lower on vitamin D. So, sometimes you want to up the D during this time of year, because that's plays a huge role in your like for bone pain and joints and your immune system.
Yeah, and
depression
with seasonal affective disorder. Yeah, I mean, that, not having as much daylight really, really affects a lot of people. And knowing that, you can, like Misty said, you can be proactive, because I think that with these flares, because you don't know necessarily what always sets them off, that being as proactive as you can is
right.
one of the best things that you can do to kind of manage that portion. And knowing,
absolutely,
even if you do eat the wrong thing, and even if knowing all of those things, it's still not your fault. Like, nobody asks for a chronic illness, nobody asks for chronic disease. Like, so don't beat yourself up, because I do that really bad. Like, I start to
I had chocolate peanut butter cups this morning and I feel horrible. So like, I'm not trying to say, I mean, at least they were organic. They're the Justin's kind of like I'm addicted. But like, I'm not trying to say or preach anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like, we all YOLO, but like at the same time, I'm feeling bad this weekend. So like, I also had a banana because I want to make sure I get my potassium. I had extra vitamin D. Last night I had extra vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams. I was exposed to someone who was sick. So like, I try to like really compensate for that. And because I'm not feeling well, especially today and this weekend, because I overdid it, then I'm going to make it a point to like really eat healthy today because I did have some questionable items. So it's really at the end of the day, it's about balance.
Absolutely.
You want to make sure that you get certain food that has certain nutrition or nutritional value to it, and to be hydrated or drink waters that have electrolytes and minerals. You just basically, it's all about like we're at the gas station right now and you're refueling yourself. You know what I mean? So like, don't put sludge in there, maybe a little, but balance it out with some good healthy stuff or supplements,
Yeah,
whatever you can, it helps a little bit.
for
I
sure.
hope.
No, I mean, it's true because I think that because we try to, I think we're natural problem solvers, especially because we have to be such strong advocates for ourselves. So we're always looking for solutions.
Oh
I think
yeah.
it's easy to get down on ourselves for the mistakes. So, like Missy
Hmm.
said, it's important to, celebrate the little victories. And, like we joke, we've posted on Instagram before, like if you made it from the bed to the couch, good job. Like you're doing the best you can. And sometimes that's all you can do. So just
Yeah.
remember to be gracious, to yourself and be kind.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point. I think a lot of us in this community, really, we develop a complex, I would
Mhm.
say. If we did eat something that was maybe not the best thing or we overdid it, we almost just like we get hard on ourselves, and it's like we feel as if it's our fault, and of course it's not. Like we didn't choose to have this body, or to be riddled with all of these health issues, but I mean, we truly do, a lot of us develop like some unhealthy like perspectives, like I said, a complex. Like I know
Right.
I do it to myself too. Like if I don't feel well, to me I'm just like, I'm so mad at myself, like I did this to myself, when really all I did was like be a human and
Right.
try to enjoy my life
Right.
and try to like not be sick, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so don't punish yourself or be upset with yourself or blame yourself. Just try to give yourself that moment in that day to recover and relax and just know that you're doing the best you can. And,
And it's like a lot of recovery, even, with AA and those things, they tell you when you're having a weak moment, phone a friend, phone whoever your supports, reach out to us on Instagram, or Facebook, or, reach out to anyone that is a part of your support system. You're saying, hey, I'm having a tough day. I'm about to go through McDonald's. Can you please? Or, hey, I'm about to meet up with an old boyfriend who I know is not good for me, or old girlfriend, or we know what our self-destructive behaviors are. And so when
mm-hmm.
you're feeling especially not as strong, it's important to have somebody that you can call or reach out to, to help kind of help you navigate back.
Yeah, and also learn how to say no. I mean, right now we're approaching the holiday season. There's so many parties and things going on and events, and um, like I know that during this time of year, I've ended up in the hospital from just like exhaustion and running myself ragged and burning the candle at both ends and stuff. And I know better, but it's something that I work on too. So sometimes we really need to work on saying no.
Absolutely.
Um, and and hopefully the people that are you surround yourself with can be understanding. And if not, the best thing really is to just, you can also like scroll our social media and see if you find anything, or like our website. We have blogs like how to be there for someone with a chronic illness, and other episodes too,
Boundaries.
that you can give to someone. Exactly.
Right.
um or to listen or read that again. But basically just saying no is important because it's all about protecting
You.
yourself and your health. And an easy way to say that would just be like, hey, I plan to go to your event, however my health can definitely be a roller coaster sometimes, so I just want to give you a heads up that I may last minute cancel, but I appreciate the invite and I hope you continue to invite me and I hope to see you there,
Absolutely.
and
And then
hopefully
not
they
feel guilty if
understand.
you can't go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's been times where, I would be dressed, ready to go, like my hair's done, and I'm like, got to get my purse. I'm just like,
Nope.
forget it. I can't. I
Use all my
can't.
spoons. Get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, guys, like Missy said, the best thing that you can do when you're in a flare or you're feeling a flare coming on is to take care of yourself. I mean, we talk about self-care all the time. It's not selfish. It is a part of self-preservation. It's a part of making sure, that you're doing exactly what you need in that moment that's healthy for you.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to take that space back.
I agree.
Yeah.
We got any other points we want to throw in here?
No, we're going to put all this together and put it on our blog for you guys because we're going to try to get better about really, we mention a lot and sometimes we go off on tangents because, we're spoonies ourselves. So our brains, kind of get distracted. So we're really trying to make a conscious effort of putting it together so you guys can actually read anything that we mention. So stay tuned for that. We'll have that up. Yep. And like I said, reach out.
We also want to thank you for taking the time to listen, and we ask that you can give us a 5-star review so that other Spoonies can find our podcast. So if whatever platform you listen to this on, for like iTunes, they allow reviews. I'm not sure about the other ones, but we would appreciate that because we're like, I think really like number 100,007. So if we could be easier to find, that would be great. You can also visit us on the web at theinvisiblediaries.com or find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at The Invisible Diaries. Feel free to message us or request upcoming podcast topics. We're always here for our community, shedding light on invisible illnesses. And don't forget to go on Facebook, guys. We really want to build our group because I just think it's going to be really amazing once we get the people there. Because you're all on Instagram, but we want you to be there too. So that way we can all just kind of like be a supportive, community for each other. I think it would be great.
You want to reach as many people as we can.
Yes.
So
because you guys are the help with that. Like it's not just us. It's like we want to bring you all together so that, we can all learn and advocate and have support.
And share our stories. That's why we started this. The Invisible Diaries is about sharing the diaries of invisible illness or people that feel, not visible. So it's everybody's story matters to us.
Absolutely.
So
awesome. Well, thank you guys again.